The morning I realized I was about to marry someone who didn't want my daughter at our wedding, but had no problem bringing her own kids, I knew everything was about to fall apart. I'm 38, and until recently, I was supposed to marry Lauren, who's 40. We had been together for 3 years and engaged for 6 months. Up until the engagement, everything felt great. But once we started planning the wedding, things slowly began to go downhill. It all started with the guest list. I have a daughter, Ava, and of course I wanted her there. But Lauren made it very clear that she didn't want any children at the wedding. That immediately felt off, especially because she has 2 kids from a previous marriage and 6 nephews she's very close to. It didn't make sense to me why she suddenly didn't want kids there, especially since most of the guests were going to be family anyway. We argued about it more than once. Eventually, I gave in. I told her I would agree to not have my daughter at the wedding, but only if her kids and her nephews also weren't invited. To be clear, my daughter isn't even a little kid. She's 14, but that didn't matter to Lauren. She kept insisting that she didn't want to make any exceptions. She said that even though she loved my daughter, her kids, and her nephews, she wanted a stress-free wedding and didn't want to risk offending anyone with children. So her solution was simple: no kids at all. I was upset, but she had already made up her mind. The wedding itself was going to be small anyway. It was planned in my parents' backyard with just a handful of close friends and family. So I convinced myself my daughter wouldn't really be missing much. So I accepted her decision. At least, I did, until a few days before the wedding. That's when I found out what she was really planning. I was at work when I got an email from her younger sister, Megan. The email included several pictures of her 2 daughters dressed in wedding outfits, and it looked like she was asking for approval. At first, I was confused. Then it hit me. The email had been sent to our shared wedding inbox, the one we created specifically for RSVPs and vendor communication. Megan must have sent it there by mistake. A few minutes later, the email was recalled, but it didn't matter. I had already seen it, and I had already taken a screenshot. When I tried to check it again, it was gone. Lauren had already deleted it. I felt anger building immediately, but when I got home that evening, I didn't say anything. I acted like everything was normal. Lauren seemed a little off at first. I could tell she was worried I might have seen something. But when I didn't react, she relaxed and went back to acting like everything was fine. At that point, the wedding was just 2 days away, and I already knew she was hiding something from me. So I decided to talk to my daughter. We had talked about Lauren before, even before I proposed. But now I was having serious doubts, and I needed to hear her side again. I'm really glad I did. Ava told me that Lauren used to be nice to her before we got engaged, but after the engagement, everything changed. She said she didn't say anything earlier because she saw how happy I was and didn't want to ruin that. But once we got engaged, Lauren started acting differently around her. Whenever my daughter came over, Lauren behaved one way when I was around, and a completely different way when I wasn't. We have a 50-50 custody arrangement, so Ava stays with me for 2 weeks every month. That's a significant amount of time. According to Ava, when I came home from work, Lauren would act warm and friendly, like nothing was wrong. But when I wasn't there, she would completely ignore her. That had never happened before the engagement, and I had no idea. Then Ava told me something that honestly broke me. She said that when she heard Lauren wanted a child-free wedding, she felt like Lauren didn't want her in her life anymore. That's why she didn't even try to fight to be included. Hearing that hit me hard. I felt like I had failed her. I had let someone convince me to exclude my own daughter from one of the most important days of my life. That was the moment I made my decision. I wasn't going to go through with the wedding. The day before the wedding, I spoke briefly with Lauren, but I chose not to go home that night. She called me multiple times, but I ignored every call. I knew she would eventually reach out to my parents, so I told them to let her know I would see her at the ceremony. Instead of going home, I spent the entire day with my daughter. I felt like I had a lot to make up for. By the end of the day, we both felt a lot better. After I dropped her off at her mom's place, I checked into a hotel and stayed there for the night. The next morning, I went straight to my parents' house about an hour before the ceremony was supposed to start. Some guests had already arrived. Lauren's family was there too. Her parents, her sisters Megan and Chloe. And just like I expected, all the kids were there. Her 2 kids, all 6 nephews, all under 12, running around everywhere. When Lauren saw me, she rushed over to me at the door. She immediately started explaining. She said that even though she told Megan and Chloe the wedding would be child-free, she couldn't leave the kids at home. She added that her parents thought it would be strange for her to get married without her own children present. She kept going, giving one excuse after another. I could tell she thought I was angry, but I didn't interrupt her. I let her finish. Then she started asking me questions. Why was I dressed the way I was? Where had I been the night before? Why hadn't I answered her calls? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I laughed. Then I took out my phone and showed her the screenshot, the email Megan had accidentally sent. That was all it took. She froze. She knew immediately that she had been caught. There was nothing she could say to fix it. She started apologizing right away, but it didn't matter anymore. I told her what I had done the day before. I told her I spent the entire day with my daughter, and I told her what I had learned about how she had been treating her. I made it clear I wasn't interested in any explanation. I simply told her it was over. I explained that I wasn't going to marry someone who clearly didn't value my daughter. It hurt to say because I had never treated her kids any differently than my own, but it was obvious that she didn't see me, or my family, the same way. I didn't wait for her response. I turned around and walked away. She called out to me several times, telling me to come back, but I didn't. I got in my car and drove back to the hotel. I didn't know what else to do, so I just went to sleep. I woke up around noon to a flood of messages. My friends and family were confused. Her family was angry, but I didn't care. I explained the situation briefly to the people who mattered and left it at that. Then I went to see my daughter. I told her I had canceled the wedding. I also told her I was going to spend more time with her because I realized we had drifted apart over the last few months. I noticed something important. Before all this, whenever she had a problem with someone, she would come straight to me. The fact that she didn't do that with Lauren told me there had been a problem for a while. We both got emotional, but at least we were able to fix things between us. As for Lauren, processing everything hasn't been easy. 5 days passed since the wedding day that never happened, and by then, almost everyone knew why I called it off. For me, it wasn't just about how she treated my daughter. It was also about the dishonesty. I've had my trust broken before, and I know how it starts. It always begins with small lies. To me, any form of dishonesty is unacceptable. And this wasn't a small lie. This was a big one. She fully expected to get away with it. That's why I don't think I did anything wrong by canceling the wedding the way I did. Could I have handled it differently? Maybe. But considering she planned to surprise me with this at the last minute, I think it was fair. Her family, however, doesn't see it that way. They think I was unfair. They say I should have given her a chance to explain herself. Lauren keeps messaging me. She says she had her reasons. She claims she couldn't tell me directly not to invite my daughter, but she won't explain those reasons over text. She insists on talking in person. At this point, I don't care. I can't think of any explanation that would justify excluding my daughter. 3 days after everything, I contacted her and told her she needed to move out. The house was mine before she moved in. So now that we were done, it was only fair that she leave. I gave her until the end of the month. In the meantime, I stayed with a friend. A hotel wasn't a long-term solution. My friends supported me. They reminded me that I made the right choice. I chose my daughter, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Eventually, she finally told me her reason, and honestly, it made everything worse. It all came down to something that happened at our engagement party. That day, my daughter wasn't feeling well. I told her she could stay in her room, but she didn't want to miss the party. So she came downstairs for a bit. After I gave a toast, she went back upstairs. Later, Lauren went upstairs to check on her. She said she heard my daughter laughing and talking on the phone with a friend. Because of that, she decided my daughter wasn't actually sick. That one moment stuck with her. Instead of talking to me or my daughter, she talked to her sisters, and they blew it up into something much bigger. Lauren convinced herself that my daughter wasn't happy about the marriage, and that she might cause problems in the future, all because of that one moment. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even respond to her message. It was ridiculous. My daughter confirmed she was talking to a friend. That didn't mean she wasn't sick. It made no sense. Looking back, I started noticing other things. There were times Lauren complained that I wasn't giving her enough attention, especially when my daughter was around. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now it all made sense. She had been pulling me away from my daughter slowly, and I didn't even notice. A few days later, I went back to the house to grab my things. Lauren was there. She looked upset. She tried to talk to me. She apologized. She admitted she made a mistake. She said her sisters influenced her. Then she said something that stuck with me. She said she expected me to marry her anyway, that my love for her should have been stronger. I told her that if she truly loved me, she would never have forced me to choose between her and my daughter. She begged me for another chance. I told her it was too late. Then I got in my car and left. Now I'm staying at a friend's place, and honestly, I feel better. My relationship with my daughter is stronger than ever. We're back to how we used to be. She tells me everything again. There are no more secrets. We even planned a trip to the beach in a few weeks. A couple of weeks later, things took another turn. A lawyer friend told me to file an eviction notice. Lauren still hadn't moved out. So I did. A few days after that, she trashed the house. A neighbor heard the noise and called the police. She was taken into custody. There's now an official report. I sued her for the damages, and I won. Now she has to pay for everything she destroyed. Looking back now, I realize how lucky I am. I didn't just cancel a wedding. I avoided something much worse. If I had married her, this would have been a much bigger mess. I definitely dodged a bullet. And at the end of the day, I chose what mattered most: my daughter.